Hi, it's Sean McGinley.
Hi, Sean. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me and also for taking the time to watch the film. I really appreciate it.
I was totally intrigued and into this film. It
Oh man, I'm so
is,
glad to hear that.
Sean, it's so unique in your presentation and it's actually very stylized the way you've done the visuals, and just kudos to you and your editor, Charles Norris in particular, with what you guys have done to maintain our visual interest.
Thank you so much. I mean, you hit it on the head with the editor. Like he really, it was very much an editor's film, and he was so instrumental in helping me. I mean, I couldn't have figured it out without him.
I'm a big fan of Charles's work anyway. All of his Hallmark movies that he's done, Crown for Christmas, A Royal Christmas, even the Netflix Princess Switch. And he understands relationship dynamics and developing or deconstructing a relationship in the editing process.
That's so cool. You know who he is. That's great.
Oh my God. I have long been an admirer of his work. And I know you've worked with him before on Silver Lake, as with your DP, as with Thomas Scott Stanton. You worked with him on Silver Lake also. You brought a lot of people back for this one that you've worked with, because you also, Austin Nichols, he was in Lawless Range for you, and Thomas he was your DP on that one as well. And Spencer you worked with long time ago, The Truth About Juliet.
That's very true. I try to bring back anybody I can, and I need people to work at a small budget, so I call on these friendships to get people to show up for me.
Well, and that's a testament to you that you can call these people and they will show up for you.
Yeah, so far I've been lucky with that, and that they're available.
This is such an interesting concept because we've seen so much utilizing, the text messaging and the blurbs online now, that everybody's incorporating it right down to the soap operas.
Yeah.
But you opted not to do that. You actually let us see the people, and you let us see full screen of an email or a text message. It's not just a little blurb on a phone or something. So I'm really intrigued and curious as to, what led you to tell this story and the manner in which you tell it.
Well, it all started, I had an experience similar to this maybe 10, 12 years ago with an online dating situation where, that the spine of the, it's been exaggerated and changed around a little bit, but the spine of it was basically what happened was that I met somebody, there was some interest, then we met, and I was just like, I'm not really, I don't think, this is right, and she was like, well, maybe we could do a friends with benefits situation. I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound so bad. and when that didn't, when I said, okay, like this needs to come to a stop, it turned into a year and a half long obsessive kind of like situation where, I realized I was dealing with somebody who was, a little bit, troubled. And so a friend of mine had said to me, he goes, because I was narrating with him what's going on, like you wouldn't believe what's happening here. He's like, there might be an interesting story here about like a relationship between two people where you tell the whole thing in just text and emails. And he asked me if I'd ever seen the play Love Letters, which I had, but then I looked it up, and he's like, that was a play that told a whole story of a romance just through the love letters. He goes, it could be like, the same thing except with emails or texts. So I originally wrote the whole thing as a play, and I changed around a lot of stuff just because I wanted the situation to be more even. And and looking back on the situation that I was in, I kind of thought, I had more fault in that than I realized when it was going on, and also just for the sake of drama, I wanted it to kind of be more even in terms of like who was responsible for what had gone down. And so that's where it all started. And I wrote it as a play, and I'm not a playwright, and I just wrote it kind of for fun as a play, and then it sat on a shelf just because I was like, I don't know how to, I'm a filmmaker. I don't know how to get a play going. I have no contacts in the theater world, so it kind of just sat around for a while. And then when I was about to make a different independent film right as the pandemic started. Like we were 4 days away from starting production, and we had to shut it down. And then, I don't know if you remember, but like when we shut it down, we thought like, okay, we're going to shut down for a week or two. We'll be right back up.
Yeah, we were given 2 weeks. Only for 2 weeks. Yeah.
Exactly. So it was just like, as the months went by, I'm like, okay, I don't think I'm going to be able to make this film. And even when I heard of people that were getting back into production, like they were telling me what things were costing, and that film was going to be like a 3-4 week film with like crowds, and there were love scenes between the two actors and everything else, and there was no way to do that. So I thought like, maybe I can do this play that I wrote in a kind of way that's on green screen, and and I had like kind of a foggy notion of what it would look like, but it was we kind of just jumped in and went forward just because it was something to do during the pandemic. And I had some relation, like I had a relation with Austin, and I called him up and I'm like, would you be up for doing this? And he was doing nothing else. He's like, I'd love to work on anything. I'm just sitting home. And so we shot it on green screen. And then, there was sort of a process to figuring out, because we shot it in 5 days in September of 2020. And, it was all sorts, the project fitted itself to shooting during the pandemic, just because the crew could be kept really small, and the two actors never were in the same space. So that's how I was able to sell it, because they were nervous about COVID. But I'm like you're going to be on a mark on a stage, and then in your dressing room, so we don't have to worry about you being too close to anyone else. And so that's how I was able to sell them to do it. And then so 5 days of them, kind of like a play, like they shot like 15 pages a day. And then, a year and a half of figuring out how to present it, visually, and then also do it for like the tiny amount of money that I had.
How did you come up with the visual design here? Because that is what really blows me away with this film, Sean, is your visual design. You've got split screens, you're using black and white, you introduce color, you use color to represent emotions. Jennifer gets angrier and angrier, oh, I'm in love. And we see color come popping in, and then it's, I know I'm fine. You understand me now. And then it's very natural, flesh tone, regular lighting. The visual metaphor that you have here, even with the size of the screen, as you're doing split screen, it's very rare that you have it split directly down the middle. Sometimes one has a 1/3 of the screen, or even less than that, and vice versa. And it's really fascinating, because you're also showing us this relationship with your visual grammar, and it's incredible.
Yeah, thanks. That was all a bit of a lengthy process. Originally, when I first thought of it, there was two things. I said, all the texting would be in 50-50 split screen, and all the emailing would be with whoever was sending the email, would be them in full screen. And the original concept was that we would shoot this on green screen, and then we actually went and shot a bunch of things that would fill in the background, like realistic. So like we shot like apartments and a bar and a hotel room and all the different places where the two characters might be. And the original concept was we would place them in a realistic environment. So when they're standing there talking, like behind them is like is like their apartments or their bedrooms, and we went and shot all that stuff. And then when I looked at this stuff, it looked weird. It didn't look fully real, and it just didn't feel right. And a number of people, friends of mine who watched it, who saw the test, said, it feels off. It doesn't look real, and I feel like there's something that happens when you are texting, and when you get into one of these online dating or any sort of dating, texting sessions, is that you kind of like go off into this like, you're in a bubble. You're in this strange world where you're kind of like, it's like a dream world almost. And, and this was, and Chuck Norris was a big part of this too. He was just like, I don't know if these realistic backgrounds work, and I think it may be better to come up with something graphic. He's like, I don't know what it is. He goes, but I feel like something graphic and a little bit more dynamic would be the way to go. So then we killed, and a lot of work had been put into it. So I killed the whole idea of like having these realistic backgrounds, and I actually sent out like about 100 emails to different motion graphic houses. First of all, saying like, I need help figuring out what this is going to look like, and secondly, I have no money. So what can we do here? And about like 6 places responded and said like, we're interested, and 5 of those were like, and we can do it for $200,000. And I'm like, okay, the whole budget of this film right now is about $50,000, so we got to figure out something else. And this company in Philadelphia called Alchemy X put me in touch with their designer, a guy named Chris Marguerite, who said like, I think I know a way I can do this. And he goes, and the way to do it on budget is, he goes, let's keep it monochromatic with like, at different times we'll bring in different colors into the backgrounds, but by and large we'll keep it monochromatic. And he goes, and that way we can do it on the budget. He goes, if we have to do this all in color, I can't do it for the budget you have. And he goes, and he just was really into it. And he was like, I want to do it, and I'll do it in between my other work where I'm being paid properly, and I'll give you a good price. So, and he was really the one that came up with like, let's not always keep it 50-50. Let's keep it like, let's make it so that, one side is bigger and the other side is smaller, and let's change that. Like the stuff you were talking about with like the sizes of the split screens. And he also, and then him and I both together went through and just picked out like what color would come in when it would just be straight black and white, when thered be a kind of like, sometimes there's like sort of like around the edges kind of like a little bit of color, and other times you're just coming in with like a hot red or like just a bright orange or whatever. And we went through, and that was just some trial and error, just with like, okay, like I don't know about this color, can we try this color? And we eventually found it, but it took a long time, because like I'd have him for a month, and then he'd be like, okay, I'm doing 20 ads for this election that's coming up, so I'm gone for 2 months. So it just it went on for some time.
What I love about varying the split screen sizes is the fact it's very akin to if you were shooting a traditional narrative film with Dutching of the camera to give us those power POVs and the submissive POVs. And this is what you do with this split screen adjustment. And that is so standout for me that you incorporated that. It's really wonderful. How much did you change, if you did it all, the text, your dialogue? Because obviously they're not playing opposite each other. So you've got to worry about getting the right vocal inflections with rage, especially when it comes to the character of Jennifer. Because it's like, I knew from the beginning, we got a problem with Jennifer. I have, over the course of my many, many, many decades on this earth, I have met people like her. And no matter how many times you tell them, no, don't do that, they do it anyway.
I know. She was, the thing with both of the characters is that they're both at not the best time in their life. And I don't think that she's a stark raving maniac. I just think, and I think this about the person who I was involved with 10 or 12 years ago. I think, we've caught this character at like a bad time, at like the low ebb of her life. I don't think this is somebody who is always going to be this crazy. I think like we just caught her at a really difficult and troubled time. And so in terms of like the inflections and all that, it pretty much stuck really close to the script. And the way we shot it was that when we filmed Ahna, for instance, Austin was behind the camera about like 20, 30 feet away from her.
Okay.
And vice versa. So like there was a dialogue going on. They both said like, I wish I could see the other person, and they really couldn't, just because the lights were on them, and first of all, I wanted to keep social distancing, and secondly, hear each other's voices, and I think that helped with the performances.
Oh, that's fabulous, because that timing, the cadence, and the vocal inflection of the back and forth, it was so immediate.
Yeah, they pretty much had it. When we rehearsed for about a week or so, and as soon as we sat down, I was just like, oh, cool. There's not much work for me to do. Like, you guys know what you're doing. You guys have these characters, and so there wasn't a ton of directing.
I truly just adore the fact that you brought in a lawyer, and that you brought Spencer in, who plays lawyers and judges.
He's a good friend of mine, too, and he's always been so supportive of me.
He is one of the biggest fans of indie film. But I just so loved the way you structured that with the cease and desist letter in the background, and he's pacing just like attorneys do. And I spent 30 years in law. I know this. Pacing as he's dictating this cease and desist, and that's so effective. And he has such command in situations like that, much as a lot of people just saw in the Dirty John miniseries where he played the judge.
Yeah, it was a good show.
Oh, I love that. Love that. That was just another nice ad here, and the visual there was spectacular.
Yeah, I got to give Chris, the designer, Chris Marguerite, credit for that. He shot that, the stuff with the letter burning up, and it wasn't something I had in my head. He's like, do you mind if I shoot something in my house? Because I think it'll look cool. And I'm like, yeah, go for it. And then he showed me that, and I'm like, whoa. I'm like, that's amazing. I'm like, let's put it right in.
And of course, you actually elicit comedy there, surrounding the cease and desist letter, since somebody chooses to ignore the cease and desist letter and still starts.
Yeah, I was hoping we'd get a little laugh there, but just because it's been the two of them, and I think you think it's only going to be the two of them, and then when Spencer pops up, I was hoping it'd be kind of funny just to be like, suddenly we have a third character popping in.
And you've got a cease and desist letter, and then the recipient of it is essentially ignoring it.
Yeah, like that's like when she goes off the rails, I think.
Yeah. Another big thing that you have here that really impressed me is the subtle scoring of Ryan Thomas Johnson brings, and the fact that there is almost a constant drum beat as an undertone, and it vacillates depending on if somebody's getting angry, if somebody's getting frustrated. But it's almost like a heartbeat, and the blood pressure is rising, blood pressure is coming down, but that is omnipresent through virtually the whole film, and that is such an incredible touch, Sean.
Yeah, thanks. That was very instinctive. Like, when we were done, I was like, I don't know why, but I'm hearing drums here, and it's unusual to score a film mostly with just drums, but I was just like, let's do it. And I had found some temp stuff that was all drums, and then I ran it by Ryan, and I'm like, I see mostly drums. If you have an opportunity where you want to use something else, great, but let's keep it mostly drums. And he did throw in some other stuff there that I think really works, like a little guitar here and there and stuff, which I think is filled it out a bit. But it was, he was good with just like finding the different, ways to incorporate the drums, and I was really happy with how that all came out.
Because that speaks so loudly as to, just as your visual does. It speaks so loudly as to the emotional state.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I was hoping would happen.
Now, you've done a film with a massive cast before, The Great Buck Howard, which is still, I love that film. I loved it back when it first came out. I still love it. You've done a bunch of your little indies, Lawless Range, Silver Lake, and because of the format of this one is so different than what you've done, what did you learn about yourself as a filmmaker in making Match that you may be able to incorporate into future work?
I don't know. The thing I kept saying, just because the post on this took so long, I was just bemoaning. I'm like, I miss shooting something, editing it, and being done. I'm like, to go through this whole process with, colors and, motion graphics. I'm like, it's such a pain, and like, I can't do it, so I have to wait for somebody who knows how to do it to do it. It was such a frustrating thing. So I don't know that I really learned that much. The only thing I learned is just like, if I have a story that I want to tell, and I wanted to tell the story of Match, and I didn't know how to do it, and if not for the pandemic, I probably never would have. So the thing I guess I learned is that, like, I need to open up my mind to, if I have a story I want to tell, I have to be more thoughtful about what's a way that maybe not the first idea you have, that what's a way to be able to tell this story, because I feel like it's a cool story and it's an important story and it's one that was inside me, and so I'm really glad that I got to tell it, and it's just the pandemic that forced me to kind of figure it out, and it was a little trial and error along the way, and I had to, if not for Chuck Norris and Chris Marguerite, like it wouldn't have turned out the way it has. So I have to credit them a lot too. But I guess it's taught me that, like, give some thought to, like, what's perhaps a non-traditional way to tell a story that you have inside you.
Something that stands out with this is, even though it's all about emails and communication via emails and text messages and phone calls, that we never hear the phone calls, it's always the afterthought of phone calls. But the actions, the emotional responses are the same now as they were in the days pre-technology. It's just back then you would have been sending letters in the mail or just showing up and camping outside somebody's door.
Yeah.
And then having the cops called or something like that. But
yeah, exactly.
But the emotions and the relationship dynamic here and the situational awareness, this has appeal for everybody of every generation, Sean.
Yeah, something I found just like when I was internet dating was I would get into these long text sessions or email sessions with somebody before I met them, and it was surprising, like, how much intimacy was created before you really even knew even exactly what the person looked like, aside from a picture. And it made me think there's something to how we can, you really don't know somebody until you sit in front of them and look them in the eye in person, but we feel like we do. We feel like, a whole, like, love affair can take place, before. And I suppose, like you said, this was something, you read, like, books from, like, the 19th century where, like, a whole, a love affair will go on just with letter writing. And so I guess it's kind of similar to that in some ways.
Yes, very much so. Now, are you excited for the film festival this weekend?
I'm so excited. First of all, I'm just thrilled it's going to be shown in an actual movie theater, just because, I think this film is probably best suited to be a streaming type thing, and that's fine with me. But it's cool. We're going to get to see it in a real movie theater, so I'm really excited about that, and I'm excited for people who I don't know to get to watch it and see what they think.
So, are you going to sit in the audience and look for listen for reactions?
No, I never do that. I can't bear it, just because if somebody gets up and leaves, it's killing me. Like, even if I go into the bathroom or whatever, I'm just like, oh, maybe they might hate it and they can't take it anymore. They're going home, and it's too much torture. But I'll ask people who, like, friends of mine. I'll be like, okay, how did it go? Did anybody walk out? Was it quiet? I always feel like if things get really quiet, like that's a good sign. But, like, the handful of times that I've sat in a theater with films I've made and watched it with an audience, I can't enjoy it. I'm miserable, and all I'm seeing on the screen is, like, the things I wish I had done differently. It's just like I'm going to go watch a football game or something and come back to the Q&A.
Well, and you also have to remember, with film festivals, a lot of times people may leave early to make it to another film. So,
I totally understand, and I also understand if they're bored and they hate it and they want to leave. That's fine too, but I just don't want to be there when it happens.
Yeah, I'm so excited for people to get to see this. Well, this will be the world premiere?
It will.
Oh my God. And when is it airing? When is it screening?
It's screening on Saturday, September 17th, so tomorrow, at 1:50 p.m. at the Regal LA Live.
Sean, I really, really like Match. It really is so good. And I can't wait to see what you do next, going back to traditional narrative storytelling.
That's what I hope to do next, something where I can shoot it, edit it, and be done and not have to go through a motion graphics process.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I will be waiting to see what you bring us next.
Thanks a lot, Debbie. I really appreciate the time, and I appreciate you. I mean, you clearly gave this a lot of thought, and I can't tell you how gratifying that is. I've been on an island by myself looking at this film, so it's so nice to get an outside perspective.
Well, you done good. And
Thank you very much.
have fun tomorrow. Even though you're not going to watch the film, have fun in your Q&A. And,
I will.
Just enjoy.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sean. Bye-bye.
Okay. Take it easy.